the language. No, we're not nameless, we're not faceless. We were born for greatness. Somebody sound the alarm. A fire was set in the dark. It's time that you know. No, we're not nameless, we're not faceless. We were born for greatness. It doesn't matter if the world is gone mad. If we just hold on, if we just hold on, yeah. The sky is falling and the world is gone mad. And we sing our songs and we just hold on, yeah. So if you're running, stop running. One life, one chance, start living. Sing it louder just to let the world know. No, we're not nameless, we're not faceless. We were born for greatness. We're not nameless, we're not faceless. We were born for greatness. We're not nameless, we're not faceless. We were born for greatness. They say that I'm reckless because I'm relentless. They spit on my face and crush on my name and taking my life in vengeance. Yeah, you could try and blame us and try and take what's sacred, but we're not nameless, we're not faceless. We were born for greatness. Somebody sound the alarm. A fire was set in the dark. It's time that you know. No, we're not nameless, we're not faceless. We were born for greatness. It doesn't matter if the world is gone mad. If we just hold on, if we just hold on, yeah. The sky is falling and the world is gone mad. And we sing our songs and we just hold on, yeah. So if you're running, stop running. One life, one chance, start living. Sing it louder just to let the world know. No, we're not nameless, we're not faceless. We were born for greatness. We're not nameless, we're not faceless. We were born for greatness. No, we're not nameless, we're not faceless. We were born for greatness. Somebody sound the alarm. It's time that you know. It doesn't matter if the world is gone mad. If we just hold on, if we just hold on, yeah. Sing it louder just to let the world know. No, we're not nameless, we're not faceless. We were born for greatness. No, we're not nameless, we're not faceless. We were born for greatness. No, we're not nameless, we're not faceless. We were born for greatness. We were born for greatness. No, we're not nameless, we're not faceless. We were born for greatness. Red alert, John, shine a light down on the front lines of questioning your fate. I have a voice that is my savior, hates to love and loves to hate. I have a voice that has the knowledge.
Hello and welcome to the WWE Wrestling Talk Show with Reese Rock Jones and
Sean Randy Smith. And what follows a very successful NXT UK takeover comes the main roster's turn with Clash of Champions.
yes, WWE has a pay-per-view in which every WWE Championship, including R-Truth's 24/7 Championship, will be defended. But just before we get to that, there's also another event taking place, and that is the King of the Ring
2019.
Now, initially, the final was supposed to be taking place at Clash of Champions, but that has been removed to Monday Night Raw following Clash of Champions.
Because of so many matches that we're going to give you, but Clash of Champions will come at you from Charlotte, North Carolina, in the Spectrum Center.
Yes, but first, let's run through the King of the Ring brackets.
Yes, let's.
On the Raw side, in the first round, Samoa Joe defeated Cesaro.
In the other round, also representing Raw, Ricochet beat Drew McIntyre.
And then the following week, in the other first round matches, Cedric Alexander defeated Sami Zayn.
And also in the week after that, the Baron Corbin beat The Miz.
On SmackDown in the first round, just with a little bit of help from Shane McMahon, Elias defeated Kevin Owens.
In the next week, Ali, or Mustafa Ali, pinned Buddy Murphy.
Also, Kurt Angle 2.0, Chad Cable, defeated Shelton Benjamin.
And the week after that, Andrade defeated Apollo Crews.
So, in the quarterfinal matches, the match between Cedric Alexander and Baron Corbin was slightly put off due to events as we shall discuss in a moment,
Yes.
which allowed Baron Corbin to pick up the victory. But the match between Samoa Joe and Ricochet ended in a double pinfall, which meant that the semi-final match at Madison Square Garden would be a triple threat match between Samoa Joe, Ricochet and Baron Corbin.
In which Baron Corbin picked up the victory.
Yes. On the SmackDown side, in the quarterfinals, Elias defeated Ali,
And Chad Gable beat Andrade.
which was a semi-shocker.
It was.
And then things get a little bit interesting at Madison Square Garden in the semi-final for SmackDown, when Elias was pulled from the tournament due to suffering an ankle injury. Whether it's legitimate or storyline, we don't know. But he was replaced when Shane McMahon put himself into the tournament and the match. Where have we seen this before?
Oh yes, Crown Jewel.
But he was taking on Chad Gable instead. He also made Kevin Owens the special guest referee.
The first time, Chad Gable beat Shane McMahon.
Yes, Chad Gable beat Shane McMahon, but Shane McMahon being Shane McMahon was not happy with that, so he got onto the mic and made it a 2 out of 3 falls match.
And And again, Chad Gable won.
with an ankle lock, despite Kevin Owens doing fast counts and stuff. Due to Chad Gable winning, Shane McMahon fires Kevin Owens. We'll see where that develops.
Yes.
So the final, which will take place on Monday night, is Baron Corbin versus Chad Gable.
To crown the 2019 King of the Ring.
Anyone but Corbin, please. We do not want King Corbin or King Waiter.
But anyway, on to the main match. But first, one match that we most certainly will take place on the pre-show.
Yes, well, first considering this is a champions show, we will discuss the one match which is not for a championship.
Oh yes.
When Roman Reigns takes on the man who has been revealed to be attacking him, Eric Rowan, and that's got so heated that it's been made no disqualification.
It's going to make things very, very interesting.
Yes, but now we get to the championships.
Oh yes.
So, the match which is likely to take place on the pre-show is the triple threat match for the pre-show. I mean, Cruiserweight Championship. When Drew Gulak defends against Humberto Carrero and Lince Dorado.
It should be a very good title match between those three cruiserweights.
Well, the Cruiserweight matches are generally getting better, and triple threat matches are always fun.
They are.
But now we go to some of the other matches. At Money in the Bank, after winning the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match, Bayley would cash in on Charlotte Flair, who had just won the Women's Championship from Becky Lynch.
With some help from Lacey Evans.
Now, for the first time since Money in the Bank, because both women have been busy elsewhere, Charlotte has her rematch in Charlotte for the SmackDown Women's Championship, and she's not just facing any Bayley, she's facing a newly turned heel Bayley.
Which at the moment still got the same theme song and the same gimmick. Well, whether that's likely to change, we will see.
But we shall explain slightly why and what she turned heel when we get to the next Women's Championship match.
When we get there.
But first, for the next two championship matches, we must rewind slightly.
Yes. We're going to go back as far as SummerSlam.
Yes. The night after SummerSlam, the 12th of August episode of Raw, newly crowned two-time Universal Champion Seth Rollins took on United States Champion AJ Styles in the main event. This match was interrupted by the rest of the OC,
who were then quickly taken out by the Monster Among Men.
Yes, Ricochet would come down to get some back revenge because he's had his own issues, but he was taken out. Then Braun Strowman would come charging down to the ring and aid Seth Rollins before looking at the Universal Championship. The next week, on the 19th of August, Braun Strowman took on AJ Styles in the United States Championship match.
Yes.
This match, again, was interrupted by the OC,
Surprise, surprise.
and Seth Rollins returned the favour by coming to Strowman's aid. In a surprise move, the two of them would later tag team and face Gallows and Anderson for the Raw Tag Team Championships and surprising win the match after a running power slam and an attempted interception by AJ Styles was stomped off. So, Braun Strowman and Seth Rollins are the Raw Tag Team Champions. Question was, what would happen with their challenges? Sometime after this, Braun Strowman would challenge Seth Rollins to a Universal Championship match.
He would.
Then, on an episode of Raw, like a week or 2 weeks after that, Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler, yes, you heard me right,
In a team that we're naming the Glorious Show-Offs,
would team up and win a tag team turmoil match against several other teams, including the Club or the OC, to become number one contenders to the Raw Tag Team Championships. So, Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman have to pull double duty because they will defend the Raw Tag Team Championships against Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler. But then, no matter what happens in that match, they then have to face each other for the Universal Championship.
so good luck to both individuals, because you're going to be extreme, because both you, Seth Rollins, and you, Braun Strowman, are going to be severely knackered.
Next, we move on to the SmackDown main title, also known as the WWE Championship, which we also go back to SummerSlam for, because at SummerSlam these two would face each other for the WWE Championship. But then Mr. Orton decided to poke Kingston where no one should, at the family.
Yes, and I should have learned my lesson.
To cause a disqualification. Well, actually, after the double countout, whatever it was. But not satisfied with that,
No.
these two superstars have scheduled to face each other again for the WWE Championship. And it's been 10 years since these two had a big feud.
It has been that long.
And part of me is wondering now, this match, especially with how personal it is getting, calls for one more match to take place inside a structure known as Hell in a Cell, which takes place.
On that one.
That will take place in 3 weeks. But we have to get through Clash of Champions first.
Of course.
And SmackDown has to move networks and days.
Yes, and we'll get onto that in a later show.
Now, whilst Kingston is tied up with Orton, the rest of the New Day, in the Big E and Xavier Woods, will be tied up with Randy Orton's new friends,
The Revival.
who seem to have taken it upon themselves to beat up on the New Day and Xavier and Kofi Kingston. But then again, this raises the issue that we've had several times, in that the Revival, as far as I'm aware, are a Raw tag team.
So it doesn't make sense that they should win the SmackDown Tag Team titles.
Okay, so when we move on to another championship, when The Miz looks to equal the 9 reigns as Intercontinental Champion, which belongs to the current AEW Champion, Chris Jericho.
As he challenges Shinsuke Nakamura for the Intercontinental title.
However, Nakamura does seem to have a friend in the background by the name of Sami Zayn. That if Zayn is still alive after being idiotic enough to interrupt The Undertaker.
This past week on SmackDown.
Now, we mentioned Bayley and Charlotte.
But now it's time to mention the other half.
Now, Bayley's best friend, Sasha Banks, returned to Raw the night after SummerSlam and attacked Natalya, going heel for the first time in a while.
And changing her hair colour from purple to blue.
Then she would go after Becky Lynch when Becky Lynch tried to make the save. A few weeks went on with words back and forth.
Yep.
Then Becky Lynch was set to face Sasha Banks for the Raw Women's Championship. So the 4 horsewomen, who will be featured in 2K20, but we'll get to that when the time comes,
in October,
face each other for their respective championships. Now, the interesting thing, when we said we would talk about it, 2 weeks ago I think it was,
yes,
there was a tag team match in which Bayley teamed with Becky Lynch against the women's tag team champions in Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. They have their respective match, which we'll get to momentarily. But during this match, Sasha Banks would make an appearance and go and hit a backstabber. Then would get a chair. Now Bayley came into the ring during this point, grabbed the chair off Sasha Banks. She looked conflicted, but then she just started hammering away at Becky herself.
Confirming Bayley's heel turn in the process.
And her explanation is basically, I'm going to stick with my best friend.
And reform the Boss and Hug connection.
Did you nearly say Rock and Sock connection?
I nearly did, but when I stopped myself. But speaking of tag teams, the women's tag team titles will be on the line as Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross of Monday Night Raw defend their championships against Byron Desires, Mandy Rose, and Sonya Deville from SmackDown.
This team between Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross seems thrown together.
It does.
It's kind of... part of me wonders whether it's just a way to protect Alexa Bliss, because she hasn't exactly done well so far.
Due to her recent injuries.
But Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville were the final team eliminated in the Elimination Chamber match, which crowned the women's tag team champions when they first were introduced earlier this year. Is it time for them to win the titles?
And again, again, only time will tell, and the final match will be for the United States Championship.
Yes.
AJ Styles of the OC defends his championship against Cedric Alexander.
Yes, we mentioned us earlier that the match between Baron Corbin and Cedric Alexander in the King of the Ring tournament was a slightly off and one-sided in a way. That is because the OC decided to attack Cedric Alexander for no reason whatsoever.
During an interview.
Yes. Then Cedric Alexander was facing AJ Styles in a one-on-one match on this past week's episode of Monday Night Raw. And that got turned into a whole another bunch of clusters because VOC, yet again, got involved in that, which then caused the Viking Raiders, yes you heard right,
The Viking Raiders
to come out and assist there. So then we had a 10-man tag team match on as the main event, which was VOC teaming with Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler to take on Cedric Alexander, Braun Strowman, Seth Rollins, and the Viking Raiders. And in this match, Cedric Alexander gained momentum and pretty much made this match official by pinning AJ Styles. So,
and that's where our United States title match is coming from.
So 11 matches to go through, and we will round them up again before we leave.
Yes.
Starting with the one match which isn't a championship match. Roman Reigns will take on Eric Rowan in a no disqualification match.
The match that we think will be on the pre-show will be for the Cruiserweight Championship, as Drew Gulak defends his championship against Humberto Carrillo and Lince Dorado.
Bayley will defend the SmackDown Women's Championship against Charlotte.
Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman will defend the Raw Tag Team titles against the glorious show-offs of Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler.
And then they face each other for the Universal Championship.
Kofi Kingston will defend the WWE Championship against Randy Orton.
For New Day members, Big E and Xavier Woods will defend the SmackDown Tag Team Championships against the Revival.
Shinsuke Nakamura will defend the Intercontinental Championship against The Miz.
Becky Lynch defends the Raw Women's Championship against Sasha Banks.
Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross defend the Women's Tag Team titles against Fire and Desires, Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville.
And AJ Styles defends the United States Championship against Cedric Alexander. Now, the one thing we have not discussed here
is the 24/7 Championship.
Yes, 15-time champion, R-Truth, will probably at some point have to be defending the 24/7 championship because it is supposed to be every championship being defended.
We expect at least a lot of title changes regarding the 24/7 title.
What I expect to happen is one of two things.
One,
either they will make some kind of last-minute scramble type match, which we saw several times with the Hardcore Championship, for those of you who are old enough to remember that title.
Yes, me.
Or they could do a few backstage segments with quick title changes.
Like they did on Raw Reunion. But either way, time will tell. That about does it for WWE Clash of Champions pre-show.
As Clash of Champions takes place this Sunday night in the Spectrum Center in Charlotte, North Carolina.
So until then, he's been
Luis Solak Jones, and he's been
Sean Randy Smith. Enjoy Clash of Champions, and we will see you next week.